My definition of a punk is a DL man, and my baby daddy was a punk. And majority of the men that I messed with in the military were punks, and I just didn't realize the fucking sign.
I need everyone to listen because when I'm scrolling on my free page and I see a video about a man disrespecting a woman, I don't want to open the comment section and see any, that's not a real man, by the way. He gotta be gay. He gotta be DL.
The rise in the DL police on this app is straight women trying to make sense of the fact that they now know that men hate them.
Okay, so you think your man is on the down low. Here are 5 foolproof ways to find out for sure. Girl, I've been exposing DL men since 2022 and have successfully saved the lives of 40+ women from these demonic boy lovers. Do you see how crazy that sounds? Were you intrigued? Did you jump? Because it's time we talk about it. Hey guys, it's imergency and welcome back to my channel. And today we are talking about something that has been sitting on my heart for a while now, and a conversation that I feel like needs to be had, because I think where this conversation started was fine and well-intentioned, but where it's going and where it is right now is largely problematic, and I don't think we're seeing it as such. And what I'm talking about is the rise of DL hunting, or down low men hunting. And it seems timely to talk about this, seeing as there have been DL allegations of, let's say, presidential proportions, if you catch my drift, but also just a general uptick in DL hunter content and commentaries spreading online. Like, I've been seeing this trend online of DL hunters, or at least just women telling absolutely abhorrent stories about men, and the comments under these videos are always quick to say that the man in question here is actually just down low or secretly gay, and implying that that presumption could be the only possible explanation as to why he would treat a woman that way, almost as if blatant misogyny hasn't existed for actual centuries. And when I see things like this, I just have to ask, why are we in it? What did we do? Like, I feel like we've circled around from allyship to just blatant homophobia, because why are we using gay as an insult again? I mean, gay as an insult just in a sort of different way. Like, honestly, some of y'all are just getting a little too comfortable using it in a derogatory way. Like, I'm even seeing people starting to say slurs because they have been reclaimed again. Right. And you may be asking yourself, Rumi, is it really that deep for you to make a whole video about it? And to that I say, yes, actually. Because at its core, when you're ascribing negative traits like being a misogynist, hating women, or just being too feminine or sassy in derogatory ways, such as saying that someone is DL or just secretly gay, what is that really saying about what you think about gay people? Quickly. And if you know me, you know I go hard for my girlies and gays, but it really does get to a point, because it feels like there's a portion of women out there that are finding out that men are actually just misogynistic, because it hasn't been more front-facing and just outwardly allowed over the past, let's say, 10 or 20 years. And instead of confronting and addressing the roots of misogyny and misogynoir, it for some reason is getting blamed for actually being gay. Like, why are ancient misogynist men getting thrown out the gates? Like, we don't want them. And also, just like, why do we assume that a terrible person is gay? Like, why would that be a characteristic of gayness, or at least latent gayness? Like, yeah, there's like the whole like, oh, he's so evil, he must be sexually repressed of it all. But like, no, actually. I heard this quote from a while ago about misogyny saying that like men don't love women but are still sexually attracted to them. Like, right, that's exactly what objectification is. And that right there is the deeply rooted misogyny in question we've been fighting for years. That men don't see women as equals, but rather as things to satisfy them. And I feel like that revelation is me preaching to the choir. But I just want to reinforce again that that is not a symptom of queerness. That's a symptom of years of patriarchy. Now, am I saying that this hasn't happened in the history of ever? That like a man is actually repressing his identity and it comes out in the form of hatred towards women? Like, no, that surely has happened, and sure, it does happen. Like, there are many of stories out there. Like, that's why this whole trend has taken off. And this isn't to invalidate anyone who's experienced this, but specifically what I'm talking about is just like this wave of TikTok DL hunters and the insistence of calling every man whoever shows negative behavior towards women, or on the flip side, shows an ounce of femininity, we as a society, or at least as the internet, throw them deep in the DL basket, or at least just use it as a weaponized insult against them. And I think the language we use here is really important, and as we're going to get into later in the video, words do mean things. Like, I hate to say it, but some straight men, a lot actually, just hate women. And given the times we're living in, it's never been so blatantly in our faces. Now let's dig a little deeper into the fascination around the need to figure out who is DL and who is not. Now, I do want to say right off the bat, I understand fearing infidelity, because that truly sucks and is one of the hardest feelings you can feel in a relationship. But in the case of this DL debacle, that doesn't feel like that is entirely what this is. This feels a little more witch hunty. It feels like there's this need to know or to label someone who isn't behaving in a way that you'd like them to as DL. And as an addendum to that, usually this notion of DLness is framed within the context and narrative of sexual deviance. And again, I am not here to invalidate anyone's experience or to like talk down to anybody, because yes, sure, this happens to people. Well, like, why not just leave it alone if that's what you suspect is happening to you? Or if this man is being emotionally abusive or even verbally misogynistic, leave that man alone anyway. Like, the reasonings behind why he may treat you or other people terribly doesn't have to be because he's secretly into men. Like, you can leave a man for whatever reason. And of course, when I say this, I mean like if you're able to safely. I'm not talking about instances where this is dangerous, of course. And it's just like so many things about this conversation suck, obviously. But one thing I think about is how hard we work to move away from gender norms, only to then go back and reinforce them with the DL witch hunt of it all. Like, I really hate to come on here and defend a man, but like, if a man has done anything that can be deemed as vaguely feminine, then that's a wrap. And of course, this is all using the antiquated heteronormative definitions of femininity and masculinity. And it just seems like this terrible backslide, which is not surprising given the increasingly traditional times that we're currently living in. Like, guys, if they float, they're DL and we gotta burn them at the stake, but if they sink, they're just a woman hater. Now let's take a little deep dive into what are the contributing factors of like this DL epidemic to begin with. And I think first and foremost, the problem started at home. So this is a section where we're getting into the history of men on men crime. That does sound a little homoerotic, huh? No, I mean, we're talking about the history of men policing other men's behavior. I feel like we definitely saw this more in the early 2010s growing up, but like, do y'all remember the hashtag no homo of it all? And like men, straight men, actually using that unironically for saying a completely normal sentence about another guy. Like, there were times where boys in middle school and high school were being weird about eating bananas, and that still happens to this day. Like, God forbid a straight man eats a banana or a hot dog in public. Like, I promise you the food's not gonna make you gay if you weren't already. Fast forward to today, where the statements evolved into things like pause, ayo, and things like aight man, as signals that one person has gone too far into a non-masculine territory, or if what was said could be interpreted as some kind of homosexual rigmarole double entendre. And the thing about it is that at best, statements like this and conversations like this either lead to a de-escalation or just general disengagement from the conversation at hand, and at worst, occasional violence. And we see this most often in media now for Gen Z and Gen Alpha with streamers.
You dirty ass. I knew it. So say no homo.
What you mean?
You need a nice long one. Play again, pause. I said pause.
Like, sure, this is definitely better than beating on gay people and being physically violent, but is this really where male allyship begins? Steering clear of topics or conversations that don't fit into the rigid sense of masculinity? What immediately comes to mind for me is like the whole rhetoric of just don't bring that shit around me, or saying pause or no homo isn't enough. In order to be in community with people, queer or not, you gotta do your part to facilitate a space that people can be comfortable in. Like, you're denying real aspects of your friends that most of the time aren't actually gay, and you know that, so that you can be friends and operate within the masculine bounds of friendship, which is just weird. Think about it like this. Say you have friends that are different from you. The more you treat people like regular people and not like some uncomfortable anomaly to be around, the better it'll be for us all. And it's nice and very kumbaya to say that, but like, that also really does require a shift in perspective from men and women, to then not go on assuming that just because a guy is friends with gays that he's also gay, zesty, or DL. Or even if he doesn't have any outwardly gay friends, we need to stop with the belief that certain behaviors are quantifiably gay. Like, for real, tolerance and basic human empathy check. Now we're gonna get a little academic with it and talk about a study around the concept of homosociality. And I think homosociality is something that we're seeing more and more of between men. And if you're unfamiliar, homosociality is a form of men policing others' behaviors in a somewhat panopticon style. The term homosocial was popularized by queer theorist Eve Sedgwick. And the concept of homosociality describes and defines social bonds between persons of the same sex. It is, for example, frequently used in studies on men and masculinities. They are defined as a mechanism and a social dynamic that explains the maintenance of hegemonic masculinity. A popular use of the concept is found in studies on male friendship, male bonding, and fraternity orders. And it is also frequently applied to explain how men, through their friendships and intimate collaborations with other men, maintain and defend the gender order and patriarchy. Basically, it's the concept of men seeking the approval of other men by dogging on women, or behaving in a way that is most pleasing to the social group, which is usually not including men or gays. And this is not to say that these men are gay or homosexual for doing so, but studies show that men have historically sought to build camaraderie and respect, and move in a way that gains the approval of other men as to not teeter the norm and uphold patriarchy. And this right here is misogyny at play. Seeking the approval of the same sex by ostracizing, isolating, and objectifying the other. And because seeking approval from your bros can be considered sus or glazing, you toss in a lot of homophobic rhetoric and verbiage just so that everyone knows you are not a homo. And unfortunately, even when it comes to women, they are no longer people, but rather social currency, which is as scary and as terrible as it sounds. Like if the bros think she's hot, then that's leverage for the man. The discontinuity between male homosociality and homosexuality results in male homosocial relationships being a form of male bonding, which is characterized by homosocial desire as well as homosexual panic. Homosocial desires refers to men turning their attention to other men, and homosexual panic refers to the fear of this attention gliding over into homosexual desire. That's right, the fear that if you're too good to your homeboys, you might actually want your homeboy. In an attempt to emphasize heterosexuality, fear or hatred of homosexuals and misogynist language are developed. And again, none of this theory is to excuse misogyny or misogynoir, and are 1000% things that need to be unpacked and changed about the culture of masculinity, and especially within Black masculinity. But that is just the level set.
A lot of theories suggest that male homosociality exists on the same spectrum as homoeroticism. But because of homohysteria, there's a really strong conscious social effort to create this diacritical opposition between homosexuality and homosociality in male relationships. So we're conceptualizing male homosocial relationships as a form of male bonding that involves homosocial desire and intimacy, as well as homosexual panic. So they're constantly turning their attention to other men, but then there's a really intense fear that this attention would glide into the homosexual territory.
On top of that, I think that women being homosocial in a patriarchal world is more of a form of protection and survival, as opposed to why men are homosocial. Because within a patriarchal society, male relationships are often structured in a way that reinforces and perpetuates the patriarchy. Their relationships often function as a way to maintain social dominance and male privilege, which is why women are commodities amongst men.
Now we've debriefed on man crime. It's time that we now turn our focus towards the rise of policing men's behavior from women, which is kind of crazy to say given the patriarchy of it all, but hear me out. And one of the more prominent ways we've been seeing this on social media have been from the rise of the
sassy man apocalypse.
Sassy male apocalypse.
Yes, the sassy man apocalypse. And I hate to be the too woke friend. No, I don't. But this trend never fully sat right with my spirit because it just got a little too comfortable with making claims around sexuality and gender expression. Oftentimes it feels like actually policing someone's gender expression, which like guys, I thought we put in the legwork to move away from classic gender stereotypes and roles to a more fluid one. Like what was all that for then? The labels of sassy, chalant, and zesty feel like labels to scare men into acting a certain way or to not act a certain way. And by using gay as the instigating term, it's just again reinforcing homophobia, because if they were gay, then what? Why is being gay or fruity or effeminate the covert insult here?
I love taking the piss out of men. I will do it every day and twice on a Sunday, okay? Don't get it twisted. However, seeing women and girls and just people in general saying men are like sassy and things like that for liking like stereotypically feminine things or for not being traditionally masculine is a very slippery slope. It's a very slippery slope into gender essentialism, and it's also wildly homophobic.
Like, it's similar to when people say things like zesty or sus or punk, especially punk, and fruity. Like, I feel like we're getting a little too comfortable using these terms when, especially for those of us that are straight, to insinuate someone is gay. And again, even if they are, what's the problem? Like, why is this something that we need to be super vigilant over? Like, it all harkens back to the misconstrued belief that traditional men traditionally treated women well and with respect. And this current rise in things like red pill content and women hating somehow has to do with like the closeted homosexual men. When again, to reinforce this video's thesis, being a woman hater is not a queer trait. In fact, I'd actually go as far to argue that that is a trait of the traditional man, if we're looking historically. The narrative from all sides of the internet has devolved from, yeah, there are times where people take their closeted repressed emotions and resentment that they can't live their truth out on women unfairly and unjustifiably, to now every man who mistreats a woman is a secret homo, when no, men can be and oftentimes are terrible people. Like, this whole DL until proven straight mentality needs to go. Like, just tossing men who act violent or hateful to women to the gay team is crazy, because misogyny has existed for so long. And if we want to take it a step further, that thought process also is insinuating that gay men hate women, which is like, okay. And I know that this is a sweeping generalization, which likely does not match every single case, but many cases that are being publicized on social media and are becoming part of regular conversation can be and oftentimes are harmful. Like, the lack of attraction from queer men to women does not automatically mean that they hate them. And I know that that's common sense, but the way that this conversation has devolved really makes you wonder, because I think this whole thing is just crazy. And again, I do want to preface, because I feel like I'm coming on hot with this video, this is all not to defend straight men. This is to defend the gays because shit has been getting wicked, no Ariana. Because at the end of the day, men demonstrating behavior that you don't like or agree with, so you label them as gay as a response, is homophobic, full stop. And I feel like we need to be real about that. Now, a key piece of this conversation that I've been meaning to talk about just generally, and honestly a piece of nuance that I don't feel like is talked about enough, especially in the context of this conversation, has to do around the concepts of bi erasure, biphobia, and the intersection of bisexuality and people of color. Quite literally putting the bi and BIPOC. I'm kidding, that's not what that means. Although when I first heard the term BIPOC, I thought it was bisexual people of color, but we have learned it is Black Indigenous. But like I was saying, I think another aspect of this that so often gets looked over is the fact that the conversation around DL men often gets very black and white, and people tend to forget that bi people exist. And you may be like, yeah, okay, I get it. Bi people exist, but like, why are people not being honest about it and living in their truth then? Well, biphobia. And no, biphobia isn't just a buzzword that I made up and decided to throw on this video. There are actual studies to demonstrate that people report more negative sentiments towards bisexual individuals than gay and lesbian individuals, which for one is interesting, and two is a whole inter-community discourse that could be a whole separate video. But for the sake of this video, we looked into a study that specifically focuses on the intersections of bisexual identity. And according to this study, which is an examination of attitudes towards bisexual people at the intersections of gender and race and ethnicity, people actually reacted more negatively to bisexual men than women, Black and Hispanic bisexuals more than white bisexuals, and more negatively towards trans bisexuals than cisgender bisexuals. Okay, cool, but what does all this mean? This is all to say that the demographic that experiences the most negative reactions and sentiments are BIPOC trans men, bisexuals, are BIPOC trans men bisexuals, and then cis BIPOC bisexuals. Like, not that this is like the Ginny and Georgia Oppression Olympics or anything, but this is more to show the barriers and challenges this community faces and how that might lead for some people to stay DL. Because again, I feel like this part of the conversation isn't talked about enough. Oftentimes, DL people are not just gay, they are bisexual because they're still sexually intimate and oftentimes emotionally intimate with the women that they're dating while also having sexual and emotional relations with men. So just because a DL is messing with guys on the low does not mean that he's just gay. And this mentality that we're talking about as to why people stay DL is also rooted in patriarchy. Like, see, for the men out there that hate when I talk about the patriarchy, it literally impacts everyone, including you. Lastly, for this point in the study, current discourse surrounding the down low or DL suddenly characterized secretive bisexuality as being all but exclusive to Black men. Interestingly enough, classical studies of bisexuality in the US focus heavily on white men and women. Shocker. And according to that same study, Black and Latino bisexual men have also been found to be less likely to disclose their same-sex behaviors, particularly to their partners that are women. And when you hear this, it really reinforces some of the sentiments around the whole DL debate, being like, oh, DL men are being very dishonest to women about who they are and who they lay with. And you may be asking why that is. Well, a third crucial factor is the strong lack of acceptance of bisexuality and homosexuality in Black communities that several researchers have noted. And the reasoning behind that is that it's likely that the strong association between masculinity and heterosexuality makes it difficult for ethnic minority men to openly explore same-sex sexual desires and develop a bisexual or homosexual identity. The research goes on to state that the strong association between masculinity and heterosexuality in Black and Latino ethnic minorities should not be understood as an essential link because they cannot be seen independently from the social position of ethnic minorities. And for me, at least, I feel like it's true that there are vastly more queer people in comp-het couples due to society. And I feel like many of us contribute to that daily via the rhetoric that we both use on and offline. Bisexual people, and more specifically bisexual men, exist in droves. But a common thing that I hear from bisexual men is that it's harder for them to date or approach women if they are open about the fact that they've also been with or will continue to be with men. And I'm getting this straight from the source. I have dated plenty of bi men in my day who all share the similar sentiments of like being more romantically attracted to women and would ideally like to marry women. But the large stigma around being a bi man who engages in the other side of bi-ness becomes a sort of barrier to entry, and thus it is easier and more convenient to then continue to be with men. And honestly, I don't know how to feel about being told that as the man who was with the bisexual man at the time. Well, considering I'm single, I think that speaks for itself. And this isn't necessarily to call the girlies out, more so to call everyone in to have a real conversation about the latent internalized homophobia and misogyny that's turning people off, or at least averting people from actually taking bi men seriously or being attracted to them in the first place. I think recognizing this in ourselves is the first first step, because that just not in my yard business does not make you the ally that you think you are. Like whenever I talk about this, I always think of that clip of Molly from Insecure cutting things off with that one fine ass solid dude, because he said that he experimented with a guy once in college and decided that he wasn't into it. Like that man made it clear that he was not even bi, but he still got the boot just for confirming that himself. Like, okay, biphobia is a real thing. Molly was running a strict program, you hear me? But the point I'm trying to make here is that it's hard to have a conversation around the rates of like DL men not living in their truth, while also the other side of things being punitive and mildly homophobic to those that do. It's contributing to some of the reasons as to why people stay in the closet or are on the DL. You always hear that sentiment of like, when it comes to being bi and you're a man, then you're just not confident enough to say that you're fully gay. But if you're a girl, you just want male attention, which is obviously for one, just biphobic rhetoric, and two, for both cases is implying that the goal is a man. But this sentiment is still pervasive in ideology, as even in that one episode of Insecure, the worry is that man who just experimented once, mind you, is just a DL man. And when it comes to bi acceptance and bi attraction or lack thereof, the main reasons I see online for women saying it's a preference to not be with a bisexual man has to do with sexual health, which like if you're with a partner that you're actually interested in and is mature and safe, that is something that you can easily check or get tested. And I think primarily it's really unfair and dangerous rhetoric to think that every bisexual or gay man instantly has a incurable disease like HIV. Like, yes, stay vigilant and care about your sexual health generally, but that right there is a massive and harmful generalization. Another thing that I hear is that it's just a preference to not want to date bisexual men, and y'all might not be ready for this one, but that's not a preference, that's a rule. And just homophobia. Like, please, what does that have to do with you if that man is with you? Honestly, what does it matter what he's done previously? Like, it's like the same mentality of someone deciding to not be with you based on your body count. Like, why does that matter? Especially if you're already keeping your sexual health in check. I actually saw a really great TikTok on the concept of like black masculinity and homosexuality, talking about how like the worst thing a black man can be is gay. Not me being public enemy number one.
Can we actually deep that the worst thing that you can be as a black man is gay? Let's sit with that. Mad, isn't it? Not an abuser, not a racist, not an actual criminal, a gay man. Two words, religion and misogyny, both of which were arguably inherited from colonization. But that's a topic for another day.
But the conversation goes further, stating that bisexuality itself is an attack on traditional black masculinity. And homosexuality we already know, but bisexuality as well is something that's very frowned upon, both within black male-centered circles and in general society. And like, we don't need to get into the weeds, or more so the roots of black masculinity and why that is such a strong thing, at least in America, because guess what? It stems from slavery. But yeah. Okay, at this point in the video, we've talked about the guys, we've talked about the girls. It's time we talk about the gays. And more so bringing this all around the concept of gay or queer people being the butt of the joke, and ultimately the ones suffering the long-term consequences of this whole debate. At the end of the day, all this discourse just reinforces people's latent disapproval or problems with queerness and gay people. And at the core of the DL allegations or identifying sus or zesty men is a disdain for queer men. Even if the man in question is not gay themselves, they should rectify their behavior and abide by the antiquated patriarchal standards as to not be mistaken for gay. Like the concept of smiling in your gay bestie's face while also praying that your kids don't turn out to be gay themselves, and believing deep down that your friends are destined for hell, or preferring that your man isn't bisexual, is all just straight up homophobia, and we can't continue to sugarcoat it as anything else. Normalizing sentiments like this only legitimizes and gets more people comfortable with the inevitable repealing of gay rights and the rise of homophobia, because right now it's still in its coded messaging dog whistling stage, but as we know with most things that have followed this pattern over the past couple of years specifically,
do you think that President Trump is a fascist?
And after President Trump said that, I said yes.
The less we check it, the more comfortable we come around these ideas, the more overt the messaging will become. And that will inevitably bleed into public sentiment and ultimately policies. And if you don't care about any of that, let me make it personal. It's time we talk about the real life dangers of outing DL men. Because with a lot of the discourse around outing DL men, especially from my LGBTQ brothers and sisters, there unfortunately is a real danger that comes with outing these individuals who aren't ready to be outed. And oftentimes that could result in things like bodily harm or just flat out schmurder. Like, guys, come on, especially in the community, we know the dangers of being outed. So let's just leave these DL men alone. And that's not to protect them, that's to protect you. Two wrongs don't make it right, and outing someone really is never okay. And I thought we knew this. We never know people's situations, and while yes, being played by a DL man is not fun, whether you're a woman or the secret hookup, but please leave that man alone. And I know there are situations in which some people have built lives together. Maybe there are kids involved, and I want to disclaim that cheating is not okay, and everyone has different circumstances and cannot possibly speak to them all. And when I'm speaking about this generally, I don't mean those extenuating circumstances, but if you do think that your man is DL and you're able to safely leave that situation, do so. While sexuality preferences can be problematic, you don't need to be a part of someone's process. If they themselves aren't ready to be who they are, you don't need to be a part of the process of helping them figure that out if you don't want to. But that also doesn't mean that you're entitled to out someone, because outing people can be very traumatic, further repress people, and or put them in severe danger. And while it's nice to think that we've completely overcome homophobia and now live in a society where it doesn't impact your daily life as a queer person, that unfortunately is far from the truth. The needle has certainly been pushed forward, but there is still a lot more work to be done and much to overcome, especially if you have intersectional identities. It impacts people from all levels, from personal life to career, especially when the internet is on a witch hunt. And I completely understand it can be easy to get caught up in it. And sometimes it could be really entertaining or even funny. But I think it's about time we check in with ourselves and see what kind of verbiage and rhetoric we're using online and in real life surrounding the queer community. Because at the end of the day, when that day gotta end, we do not have to live this way. These are all really just social constructs we created to uphold the patriarchal system that is obviously not working for any of us. Men, please release yourself from the shackles of homophobia and be yourself. Therapy and self-reflection might be required. And to my ladies, especially my straight girls watching, let's please look inward and address some of that internalized homophobia and misogyny. Because yes, unfortunately, y'all can be under some spells too, okay? And to my gays, leave that DL trade alone. Put that down so that we can all maximize our joint liberated and DL free slay.
Hey guys, what's up? It's Emergency and welcome back to my channel. Okay, we're gonna talk about this one show. The show that's been trending on Netflix. And I'm gonna try and speak about it civilly because I really enjoyed it. It was really fun. It was a fun watch. But so many things about it just angered me. And we're gonna talk about it. And this show is called All of Us Are Dead. There's just something about this show that is so captivating, but also infuriating if you're like actually paying attention. I can't let this go. Like, we need to talk about this. We need to discuss. Let's jump into it. But before we do that, if you are new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button for more show and pop culture commentaries and turn on post notifications. We're also we're bordering the 100K line, and like, you definitely want to say you're here before 100K, and if you're here after 100K, that's cool too, but like, there's like a special ring to being here before 100K, so do that. Also, make sure to leave a like on this video and follow me on my socials here at Emergency. Also, quick thing, I have just opened up channel memberships for this channel. It's completely optional. You get a ton of perks like the ones listed here, and generally it's just a really great way to go above and beyond to help support the channel. I really am appreciative to all of my supporter pluses. And once again, completely optional. If you do not get your membership, you're not missing out on anything. You just get these perks that are pretty nice for those that are interested. But yeah, I just want to say that's out there. But let's get into All of Us Are Dead. If you're unfamiliar with the show, All of Us Are Dead is basically a show based in Korea, and it's your kind of typical zombie movie where like everything's fine and then there's like an outbreak, and then these high schoolers have to try and survive said outbreak. And on paper, it sounds like it'd be pretty hard to like mess up because like it's very typical. We've seen zombie movies before. We've seen Korean zombie movies before, like Train to Busan. And it's actually kind of funny because they actually mentioned Train to Busan a couple of times throughout this show. So I'm like, all right, self-awareness, we're there. What I feel like is really interesting about this zombie show specifically is that it's focused on school and has like this general theme around like bullying and zombies. Don't really know how that really intertwines, but they somehow make it work. It just ultimately gets very infuriating. And I feel like a lot of the characters just generally do not make very wise decisions. Like, for a bunch of like elite high school kids, they really just are not too bright when it comes to like a survival situation, which really makes me wonder, would they have been a little wiser and had a better chance of surviving if they had like a tool like this video sponsor Bar to Be Right helping them out? You see that smooth transition? Yeah, take it away, sponsored Rumi. Thank you so much, Rumi. If you're unfamiliar, Bar to Be Right is an all-in-one writing aid that uses AI tools to help you get the grades that you want. Bar to Be Right gives you access to things like essay templates to help outline your papers, plagiarism detection to scan your essays to avoid plagiarism, a spelling and grammar checker to help correct mistakes, and a citations generator to help you cite those sources in whatever format you may need. Barbie Write is designed to reduce mistakes and improve writing habits, turn okay essays into great ones, and I can tell you right now that it has done that for me. If you've been following this channel for a while, you know that I've been a fan of Barbie for a very, very, very long time, as they've helped me throughout my college experience, my college life. I'm in my last semester of college now, and I've been using them for literal years, and they have helped proofread so many papers of mine, including my senior thesis that I wrote last semester. So I can personally tell you right now that this is super helpful for all of your writing needs. Whether you're writing long papers, short essays, or like, I don't know, like a lab report or something, Barbie Write is there to help, and they've hooked us up with a deal. So if any of this sounds interesting to you, you can click the link in my description to try out Barbie Write today. Thank you so much, Barbie, for sponsoring this video. Now let's talk about why I feel like this show is so infuriating. First and foremost, there are just tons of plot holes and things that just don't generally make sense with the show. For one, people are just way too calm in the beginning with like a student acting out in the way that Patient Zero was. I don't even remember the patient's name at this point. But like when she's like biting people, like giving like exorcist vibes, like people are too calm. Like I feel like if that was to happen in real life, you'd be a little bit more concerned than just like, oh, strap her down to the bed. Like you'd be like, ooh, what is going on here? What is going on here? And just generally like the show lacks common sense. My main problem, I feel like the biggest plot holes in the show have to do with this element that they introduced in like the middle of the season of like these half-bees, which are basically half human, half zombies, like zombie hybrids type beat. Like basically they're people who have been bitten by a zombie, but for some genetic mutational reason, they are able to keep their consciousness and keep their sanity and basically be like a human who does not attract zombies. Has all like the negatives of zombies, but also gets like the buffs of like zombies, of like not being able to die and being super strong sometimes. And the reason why this is such a big plot hole is because like their powers, like the abilities of like a half-beat are on and off. Like they change literally every single episode. Like in some episodes the half-beats have a super heightened sense of smell. In others they just have a really heightened like hearing, but like the sense of smell is gone. And then in the case of the class president who becomes a half-beat after being bitten, I could just go on and on about her, because class president, what's her name? Namra? Oh my god, I have such a problem with Namra, because Namra, for those of you that haven't watched the show yet, also strongly recommend you watch it because I'm about to spoil everything right now. Namra becomes like a half-beat after getting bit by Guinam, who becomes like the original half-beat, like he's like one of the first half-beats. And she becomes a half-beat, and she is presumed to have the same powers, like the same abilities as Guinam, but for some reason the show refuses to have her use them, to the disadvantage of the entire group that she's working with. So like in the show, we see that Guinam is able to walk through zombies, like zombies are not trying to eat him. He's able to have a super heightened sense of hearing, like I said before. He has like these super strength abilities, like it's presumed before that he's pretty weak, but like now he's able to like pick people up by their collars, like knock them down, knock them around, break things. General like superhuman stuff, which is like, okay, I don't know how like a decaying zombie would then be able to do that. And he's also not able to die. That's the thing. That is the main thing. Like no matter how many times they throw that man over a roof, and let me tell you, they do it so many times. I'm like, how many times can you throw a man over a roof before you realize he's not gonna die if you throw him over the roof? Sorry. As you can tell, I get very heated for this. I felt a lot of emotions watching this show. But we see all these powers of Guinam, and then it's explained to us that they have this very same set of abilities, right? Why is she always kept to the background? Why does she never actually use her powers to the very end, right? Because there are many situations where the group is trapped somewhere, or like they don't know where things are, and they can't go outside because they're human. They'll get eaten. But her, she literally can't die. She's not gonna attract zombies. So why do you not send her out to do the things you send living, normal people to do? You literally send people off to their deaths when you can just send Namra to do it and come back unscathed. And I'm just like, where is the mental processing in this? Because you see Guinam do this. You throw him over a roof countless times this season. Why are you not clicking? Why is it not clicking? Like anytime you fight Guinam, it is her, Namra, that's fighting back, that's getting him away. Although she waits for like the last second every single time, which is also very annoying. Like, what are you doing? Literally, what are you doing? Like, what is the explanation? Like, if y'all know something that I don't, please let me know why she wasn't contributing anything to the group besides just looking around and complaining, and then occasionally doing something at the very, very last second when need be. Like, why? So many lives could be saved if she just did something, you know? Like, why are you acting like a normal person? Like, what really got me was that scene in the gym where they're like barricaded in, they're trying to push through. Like, it is clear as day. She's looking at the zombies, they're not looking at her, they're looking at her friends, but still she's like, like, and then what's her boyfriend's name? Suyuk? Like, he constantly keeps stepping in for her, wants to be like a manly man, being like, I got you, baby. If you want to bite me, you can. Like, it's giving Twilight. It really was giving Twilight. Like, you are a human. You're not gonna do anything. You're not gonna do anything, so why do you keep stepping in when she does not need your help? She really does not need your help. And then at the end, he's like, you know, you can bite me, right? I'll just turn into a half-bee like you. And that would make sense. That would also make sense. But like, that was proven not to be true for some reason. Like, is it like a gene and just Namra got lucky for like plot armor or what? But like, why was she able to turn into a half-bee when she was bit by Guinan, but like the 3 other people that Guinan bit and devoured even did not transform, you know? Why did Namra become a zombie out of convenience, you know? The thing that really got me, the thing that sent me over the edge was the whole strength balancing thing. Like, they're supposed to have like super strength, don't know why. But sometimes Namra will be super strong and other times she'd be super frail and weak. Like, what? Which one is it? Like, does she have super strength or not? And then at the very end, she like turns into like the Avengers jumping off of a full building being like, they're here. I'm like, what? Who's here? Like the other half-bees? Like, oh, now you can communicate with half-bees? Now you can live on your own? Now you can be like an Avenger jumping off of buildings and being fine? Like, I cannot. Another thing that was bugging me, like, why was Guinam so focused on Chungsan? That is my question. For those of you that didn't watch the show, again, they basically get into a beef because Chungsan watches Guinam kill the principal and he's like, I'm gonna tell everybody. And like, Guinam's like, no, you won't. And they like fight each other to the death and like Chungsan wins and gets Guinam's eye stabbed out. And like, since then he becomes a half-beat and is on this vengeance the entire season just to take out Chungsan's eye. And I'm like, there are bigger fish to fry right now. Like, y'all need to get out. Like, you are resistant to zombies now, but like, you need to get out. Like, why are you so focused on this boy? Why are you as a man putting so much focus on another man in his eyes? I can't take myself serious. I know I keep saying like another thing, but there's just so many things that really irked me about this show. It was the people just sacrificing themselves for no reason. You did that for what? You really sacrificed yourself for what? You know? Like Anjo's dad at the end, when like they're like escaping, Anjo's dad is like, leave, and like traps himself in the tennis court. Like, you did not need to do that. Like, you could have escaped with the rest of everybody else. Like, there was no need to sacrifice yourself, because you know why? The second you died, people flooded in anyway. They did exactly what they would have done if you did not die, so you just died for nothing. Like, I don't get it. I really do. It's beyond me. It's really beyond me. Like, that made no sense. And then like, I'm forgetting the names, but like whoever the archer's brother was, like, he died for what? You know, it's just random things that people are choosing to like end their battle on that really don't need to happen, you know? Also, shout out to that one girl who there's literally a line in the show that's like, yeah, there's an apocalypse going on, there's zombies everywhere, but have you ever tried being a senior? Like, just wait till you're a senior, then you'll know real pain. Like, there is a zombie apocalypse, why are you so focused on being a senior? Like, why is being a senior in high school your personality trait? Like, why is that your entire personality? Like, I don't get that. Like, that made me laugh. That was funny. It was a good joke. Great joke even, but like, you know, this is literally just becoming a rant because I have so many things to just nitpick about the show. Like, how in the beginning of the season do they have like a really strict quarantine thing, like the military, like when you get rescued, like how is that initially like such a strict quarantine? And then when the half-beat and the other, I'm forgetting their names, but like the two like nerd characters, one of them who becomes a half-beat and the other one who like abandons the rest of the group in the helicopter, like why are they suddenly allowed to just be in the common collective with everyone? You know, because that much time did not pass in between those two events. Like, why are they suddenly just allowed to be up and about when a couple episodes before, like, there was a strict like couple week-long quarantine? You know, that just didn't make sense because like so much could have been avoided if they actually kept that continuity, but I feel like they did that just to like spice things up, you know? And then just the military as a whole in this show, like, why did they just bomb a whole city? They literally just bombed the whole city. Like, oh, we have no idea what to do now, we'll just bomb it. And then they still flopped. Like, the zombies were still there. Like, how do you send out missiles, bomb an entire city, and then still flop? Like, that's embarrassing. Are you not embarrassed? Are you not embarrassed? Like, what was that? You know, the show as a whole was just very irritating to watch. Again, like I said, if you were paying a lot of attention, like if you're just watching it in the background or you're just like passively watching it, then it's fine. It's a great show. It's very entertaining. As of like recording this, is like #2 on like Netflix's like trending page, so like it's popular, people are watching it. I definitely enjoyed watching it. It was fun. If they get a season 2, will I watch it? Yes, but that doesn't mean that I'm not seeing what I'm seeing, because what was that? Literally, what was that? But yeah, I'm gonna leave my comments there. This was literally like a 13-minute rant at this point. But let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. I would give this show, if I had to, I'd give it like a solid 7.5 out of 10. Definitely quality watch, definitely enjoyed my time watching it, but the plot holes and things that just didn't make sense really didn't make sense and kind of actually were very much noticeable. But yeah, again, let me know what your thoughts are down in the comment section below. Again, if you're new, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on my post notifications so that you never miss when I post. If you enjoyed this video, let me know by leaving a like and follow me on my social medias here at Emergency. Thanks again, Barbie Right, for sponsoring this video. Make sure you click the link in my description to try out Barbie Right today. But other than that, y'all, thank you so much for watching. I've been Emergency, and I will see you in the next video. Peace. It's over. Euphoria is over. Hey guys, what's up? It's Emergency and welcome back to my channel. It's a very sad day today. Today we're doing the final episode breakdown for Euphoria Season 2, Episode 8. The finale. And I have to say, this was a pretty solid finale. Of course, there were things that it left out, didn't really mention, and that we're gonna have to wait for more information on in Season 3. But for this episode, Season 2, Episode 8, so much went down. So much actually went down, and we need to talk about it. And really, we're gonna try and cover as much as possible. The tragedy that struck for Fez and Ashtray, RIP. The Caddy and Massey brawl that we have been waiting for. The stuff that went on with Nate and his dad, as well as Rue's growth and development. And I guess Elliot's song, because that ended up taking way too much time of the episode. And then after a quick recap, we're gonna do a quick review of the season as a whole, since we have everything now. So make sure you stick around to the end of the video so that you don't miss a single bit of it. With that said, if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button because we do episode breakdowns, show reviews, commentary, pop culture, all of that week to week. So if that's interesting to you and you don't want to miss out, then make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on post notifications, and leave a like on this video if you enjoyed. Also, make sure you follow me on my socials at Emergency while you're at it, because TikTok, Instagram, all that. But let's get into this episode. So like I said, this season covers a lot, and first thing we're going to talk about is arguably the most sad thing that happens this episode, and that is Fez. We pick up where we left off, sort of getting explanation as to why Fez didn't show up to the play, and it's because there was a sting operation by Faye's boyfriend to try and imprison Fez for murdering Mouse. And we finally get confirmation that Faye is on the side, or at least feels sympathetic towards Fez, because she ends up dropping a glass, dropping it down, and being like, shh, don't say nothing, don't say nothing. This is a sting. You being set up right now. She doesn't say all that, but the eyes and the face say it all. So she does tip off Fez, which is good on her part and her character, but she does it at literally the last second possible, which ultimately causes the chain of events that go on. Where Fez is trying to play it cool and Faye is trying to, I guess, twist the narrative and be like, wait, it's not Fez who killed Mouse, it was Lori. Lori, remember? By this point, y'all know how I feel about Faye and just her lines. It's safe to say that I got a good chuckle out of that. But they're trying to de-escalate the situation. And Ashtray. Bestie, what were you doing? What were you doing, Ash? In his usual fashion this season, he goes from 0 to 1,000 and takes that knife he was hiding in his hand and stabs it clean into Mr. Faye's boyfriend's neck. And from that point on, things just evolve because we just see things get more and more violent for Ash. And it really makes you wonder, like, why is he doing all this? Like, why did he not only kill Faye's boyfriend, but then go as far as to, like, not listen to Fez and try and take on a whole SWAT team by himself? And I really didn't understand why that is. And it wasn't until later that I sort of realized from some of y'all's comments in the little after show that I did over on my Discord server, check out my Discord server, where y'all are saying that like Ashtray is like a product of his environment in the sense that he only knows how to survive. So whenever his way of life is threatened or whenever Fez is threatened, he just automatically goes into this fight or flight mode. And 9 times out of 10, it's gonna be fight. He literally just does the most and ends up getting executed. We have to say executed because the way that they did that, the way that they took out that child, yeah, that was brutal. And having Fez see all that, he's gonna have trauma. He's gonna have long-lasting trauma. Like season 3, Fez is going to be messed up. But also, Fez is likely going to be in prison. Because he gets caught, Faye gets caught, and it's likely that Fez is going to jail. So I really don't know how that's going to work. With some other things that go on this episode, I was sort of joking in the pre-show live for this episode what my thoughts were for what could be possibly special episodes in the interim. I'll get into that later. But transitioning back to the play, we pick up Cassie, mad, fuming, fogging up the windows, just staring. And there's this amazing scene of like where Rue turns around and sees Cassie just like huffing and puffing, and she's like, ooh, that's none of my business, and turns back around. And Rue's facial expression, top tier, literally top tier. But Cassie is fed up. Cassie's done. She's walking down the aisle being like, click, 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 click. making a whole scene and basically tries to derail Lexi's play. And like I said in my last video, if you haven't seen my video about why do we love to hate flawed characters, you should go check that out. But Cassie's actions are morally ambiguous because on one hand, yes, she's in the right because she did not consent to have her business aired out like this, especially with that carousel scene. But on the other hand, she's really taking her sister's one moment to shine, like the one moment that she has to herself, not in Cassie's shadow. Cassie's really trying to not let her have that and be the star of the show by making a scene and calling Lexi out publicly as well for it. Like the whole speech that she gives where she's in her like Wendy Williams era being like, clap if Lexi had a hard life. Yeah, clap it up for her. Like, no, it really wasn't giving. And then she really just goes off the rails declaring herself a villain, which like, to who? Who are you threatening? To who? And then beats up her doppelganger, to which Maddie says like, enough is enough. Maddie is like, someone needs to put her down and she's gonna be the one to do it. And this is what we've all been waiting for. This is what we have all been waiting for. Maddie runs up there and the smack was too clean. What could I say? What could I say? We get to see the Maddie Cassie power couple scenes where they're fighting and going at it and Miss Cat is trying to hold Maddie back and really just why? Why at this point? We want to see it. We're all with BB because BB is like, yes, Maddie, beat her ass. And if for nothing else, like I support BB in this one instance because we all feel the same way. It's so cathartic to just see Maddie finally beat on Cassie because it's been a long time coming. It's been a real long time coming. Like there's just a certain feeling when you see Maddie throw Cassie's face into a wall. Like there's just something to it. There's just something to it. Something euphoric, you know? And there's a scene in the end where Maddie, Cassie, and Kat are all in the bathroom and they're just kind of like looking at their wounds. Like Cassie's mangled, like beat down, like hair a mess. And Maddie is just tending to a little wound on her foot that she probably got from running. But there's this really deep line where Maddie goes to Cassie like, this is only the beginning. And there's so many layers to that statement because Maddie is inferring that like this is Nate's cycle. Like she's referring to how Cassie and Nate are gonna be. Like Nate and Cassie are broken up now, but Nate is nowhere near out of Cassie's life. And coming from Maddie, who got out of this abusive relationship, she's telling Cassie like, I've told you all the things that Nate has done to me. And by this point, you know how this works. Like once you guys have broken up, that's not the last time. Like he will be back and he will be worse. And he will continue to be worse as long as you keep feeding into it and as long as you keep playing into it. And it seems like Cassie hasn't quite addressed her issues enough to actually want to back out. So as soon as Nate comes back being like, Cassie, I'm sorry, she's gonna be right back with him. And that's going to be very destructive and very dangerous. And honestly, kind of worried for Cassie moving into season 3 because I really don't think that Maddie's gonna have her back. Like I feel like Maddie's washing her hands with Cassie, like she's done at this point because things have gotten too bad between the two of them because Cassie literally does not feel bad for what she's done to Maddie at this point. Like there is no guilt, there's no remorse. She just wants to feel like the good guy. And in that sense, like there's nothing left for them. There's nothing left for the two of them and that's really sad. Now let's get into Rue because Rue this episode I feel like has the most growth. I feel like this was really Rue's episode to come full circle, or at least somewhat full circle. Rue, I said this last episode, but Rue looks so healthy here. She looks so healthy. And just her reactions throughout the play when she's like hyping Lexi up after the whole Cassie drama goes down. She like starts the chant to hype Lexi up. Like this is just showing like I don't want to hear it. Like honestly at this point, I don't want to hear it. Like if y'all say that Rue has never done anything for Lexi, let that one example reign true where she is there for her girl. And we see Rue go on this whole apology tour, but starts off with Elliot giving a forgiveness tour where she forgives Elliot for setting her up because ultimately he kind of saved her life in a sense. And then we get this really questionable scene where Elliot sings for like 4 minutes straight. And honestly, I like the song. It was a good song. Like I was a fan of the song. Like he ate that up. He just ate that for a little bit too long. Like he was feasting. I don't really think there was any reason for that song to go on that long when there could have been other things addressed that weren't this episode. But I mean, like, cool song. We also get a quick brief moment of Rue and Jules sort of making amends, but not really. Jules apologizes to Rue and Rue just kisses her on the forehead and dips. And I feel like that's the end of like their romance because Rue says that like Jules was her first love and she wants to keep it that way. So it seems like the Rule ship has sailed in that sense, which honestly kind of good for them because they weren't the best for each other. I'm just kind of mad that the whole entirety of the season and the entirety of Elliot's character was just there to break them up. Like, I don't know, I feel like it's kind of like lazy writing in the sense, like if Sam wanted the two to break up by the end of the season, I feel like there was a better way to go about it than putting a man between it, but you know, What happened happened. What happened happened. And finally with Rue, we get to see Rexy scenes, like Rue and Lexi having a moment really coming together, where we get this really oddly placed scene, which I'll get into in a second, where Rue's complimenting Lexi on the play. They meet up and they're just really hashing it out with each other. Not in a bad way. Rue's just really explaining how Lexi is so important to her life and how Lexi's play really did give Rue the perspective that she needed to like see her life from like an outsider's perspective and just see like how hurt and how damaged she was from like the things that happened in her past and how she can work with that to sort of try and be a better person. And she has this moment where you really see like how she looks up to Lexi, because she's talking about like how she's so proud of Lexi for acknowledging her trauma and sort of like standing up to her trauma by putting on this play and like stepping into the spotlight for once. And Rue really wants to emulate that. Like she said, she wants to be that, but she doesn't know how. And this scene is just so impactful because you can see Lexi's like hearing this, but she's not entirely believing it. But the whole scene between the two is just so impactful because these two have been ride or dies from the beginning. Like they have been best friends from the beginning. So having them come together like this after being apart for so long, so wholesome, so cute, like loved it. I really hope that their friendship does blossom in season 3. But I am just really confused at the timing and pacing of it because it seems as if that scene took place after the play because they're mentioning the play, but then it transitions and finishes as like the final scene of the play of them coming together and crying. So like how would that logistically work timeline wise? It's either that conversation didn't happen and that was entirely fiction, like that was like the play telling that story of like a conversation that never happened, or there's just a giant plot hole in the timing because that just does not make sense how a scene from the future can be in the past in the play. But that's neither here nor there. Actually, that is here and there because this episode had tons and tons and tons of plot holes and things that weren't really addressed. But before we talk about that, let's talk about one of the final things this episode that went down that was really just shocking was the stuff between Cal and Nate. And we finally get a conclusion to their character arc and their whole dynamic. So basically, Nate, after being embarrassed and calling the play homophobic, he goes, grabs his gun, fully loads it up, and goes over to his dad's shop or like his dad's warehouse or whatever to confront him for the last and final time. And that scene is just so raw and so chilling because you get to see two very, very, very damaged men just conversating and really working out their issues. Or not really working out their issues, but really just explaining where each of them are coming from. And we get to see Nate open up. And this is the first time I feel like we really get to see the inner workings of Nate's mind, because that's not something that he really expresses or talks about a whole lot or really just verbalizes. It's just like really actions with Nate and manipulation. But we see him explain like how his nightmare that we saw last episode was a recurring nightmare that he's been having for years since he saw those tapes of his dad. And this is the first time he really talks about the impact that the tapes have on his psyche, and his dad is just there taking it and sort of being unfair to Nate in the sense that he's just like, yeah, that happened in the past, but I'm just trying to live my life now. Like it was just really vibes like you should forgive me, or not even forgive me, like you should just kind of like move on because I'm gonna move on. Like I'm gonna live my life. I'm trying to live my life now. Like I know I made some mistakes, but like that was in the past. Like I'm trying to dip now. But Nate really isn't having it, and this ends up being a stick up, or not a stick up, a setup. That's the one. And Nate really just came by to say what he needed to say to get it off his chest and officially like locks up his dad because he calls the cops on his dad. It's revealed that like Nate made a copy of all of the tapes beforehand that he had been just sitting on, which is kind of confusing as to how long he had those tapes, because last episode we see that his dad took them all with him before he left. So that means that he had the tapes before he did the stuff to Maddie, before his dad actually left. So this shows different levels of premeditated, unless of course like it wasn't that set up, and that's just another plot hole in this episode. Which also leads me to wonder if Nate had a copy of the tape from the beginning, because it indicated that the tape that probably got him set up is Jules's tape, and that's the reason why they're coming to arrest him. Why did he do all that stuff to Maddie? If he had like a copy of it already, why did he do that stuff to Maddie? Like, did he do that solely to get good with Jules again? Because if so, very interesting and very curious as to how season 3 is going to go, because now officially like his dad was out of his life before, but not out of his mind. Now his dad is locked up behind bars. Again, someone said this in like the Euphoria after show I had on Discord, but like Nate has officially gotten rid of the monster under his bed, that being his father in his mind. Now what's stopping him? What's stopping him? He's sort of been outed by Lexi, so that's sort of out of the question. He now has his dad gone. Like, what's to say that like he's not going to try and pursue Jules again, because obviously that's who he has been thinking about and caring for and doing all of this for, which is very interesting. I want to see how season 3 plays out because I don't think we're anywhere near done with Nate. A funny thing to note though, it really does seem like the cops are really on Nate's side because Nate really does put someone in prison every single season. First it was Tyler, now it's his dad. Like, wow. And now that we've gotten to the part where Cal's in jail, I want to circle back to what I was saying about that special episode. I was joking in the pre-show live. I was joking that we could get a special episode of Fez and Cal in prison since they're now both there. But I don't know if I'm joking anymore. I feel like that'd be kind of funny. Because the earlier episode, I forget the one, but the one where Fez and Cal and Ashtray and Faye are all in the same room interacting was peak comedy, like the peak comedy of Euphoria. I kind of want to see that again with them just sort of hashing it out in prison in like a special episode. I just think that would be entertaining. I don't know. Let me know what you think. But I think that was all for this episode. Now I kind of want to talk about the season as a whole. Overall, I feel like season 2 was a solid season. It was very much different from season 1 in the sense that I feel like season 1 was more fantastical, more fantasy, more up in the air, just because I feel like the focus was more so on these really extravagant things and extravagant traumas happening to each of these people. Whereas season 2 is more of a realistic, down-to-earth, gritty, and dark alternative to Euphoria season 1. And I feel like I kind of like that and appreciate that about this season. We get to see multiple characters hit their absolute lowest, and we get to see some blossom and grow from it while some crumble under the pressure. And by this, I'm talking about the parallels between Cassie and Rue, because there is a parallel drawn between the two of them. Both of them have severe daddy issues, but like Cassie mentioned, the two of them are different. Like their situations are different. They handle them differently. Where Cassie goes like the seeking male validation as a result of her issues with her father and really just end up crumbling under that. Rue takes the drug route, but ultimately chooses to better herself, not for herself, just because, like she says at the end of this episode, that it's easier that way. And it's easier for her to try and feel like a good person that way. And at the end of this season, we see Cassie at a very low and Rue at the highest I feel like she's ever been in Euphoria. And we also get like a new Zendaya and Labyrinth song. We get the I'm Tired Zendaya's version at the end of this episode, so like that already boosts the season up multiple points because I love that song. But as good as this season is, it also did come with a lot of plots and a lot of issues. Namely one, there were many plot holes just reeled throughout it, just carried on from season 1 and moving forward into season 3. Like, what happened to McKay? Where's McKay? Where's Lori? What happened with Lori? Are we gonna get any follow-up from like the Tyler situation? Because that was illegal. We've heard nothing from that. Like, what happened to Jules' friends on the trip in season 1? Are we ever gonna see that again? Where is Kat's character? Because she was basically written off the script. And just so many more questions that we have unanswered. Oh, also, who is the third Jacob's son? Like, who is that? Like, literally so many questions. And in that, there's just a lack of character development for so many people, and a lot of characters regressed in a sense from where they were in season 1. Like I was saying, Kat's character took a nosedive this season and never recovered. For the first half, Kat was just trying to struggle to break up with her boyfriend, didn't even do that right, and then for the later half of the season was just standing behind Maddie for the rest of the time. And Jules' character this whole season was basically non-existent. Like, she literally was just there to have her relationship with Rue ruined, and then for the later half of the season got the Kat treatment and had basically no lines. Didn't say anything. So yeah, I'd say that those things were the primary issues for me. But overall, I'd say that the season was great. I really did enjoy watching it every single week with y'all and breaking it down with y'all. If I were to give it a rating, this season I give a solid 8.5 out of 10. Really did love this show, but the overarching issues with the show really did knock some points off, so it wasn't like a 10. But once again, thank you so much for sticking around and supporting these Euphoria videos. It has been an honor and a privilege and so much fun making them. Although Euphoria is ending, I do have a lot of new and exciting content coming up, so I hope you stick around or are looking forward to that. If you're looking for some Euphoria related content, I just uploaded a video talking about why we love to hate flawed characters and use Euphoria as a case example. And we'll be starting my new character analysis series starring one of the Euphoria characters. So let me know, who would you want me to break down and analyze first? And also, if you have any more content ideas that you'd love to see from me, let me know down in the comments below because I would love to hear from you. And once again, thank you so much for watching. If you are new, then hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. If you enjoyed this video, let me know by leaving a like and follow me on my socials down here at imuRgency. Other than that, y'all, thank you so much for watching. I've been imuRgency, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you again so much for all the support in the Euphoria videos. It's the end of an era. Peace.